That dark silver hair appeared in a family full of black-haired people. Thinking she was trapped with a bunch of absolute psychos, the little snow leopard trembled in fear. Who would have thought she'd end up as the darling of the whole family? Her mother was supposed to be the most perfect heir to the snow leopard clan. But she married into the rival Black Panther clan instead, completely ignoring her family's fierce opposition. She even gave up her own life just to give birth to a Black Panther's child. The snow leopard patriarch looked down at the baby in his arms. He was supposed to be her grandfather, yet his eyes held absolutely zero warmth or love. In the blink of an eye, 7 years passed. Although the little girl managed to grow up safely, she still hadn't awakened her snow leopard abilities. The patriarch finally lost every last ounce of his patience. With a cold voice, he ordered his own granddaughter to be locked away in the attic. Inside that dim, dreary room, the girl lived every single day on edge, covered in bruises from head to toe. She was reduced to fighting with mice just for a piece of moldy bread. One day, the patriarch took his anger out on her once again. He grabbed little Teal by the back of her neck and roughly dragged her outside. Being so tiny and weak, she couldn't fight back at all. With a heavy thud, she was thrown ruthlessly onto the freezing balcony. The door slammed shut right behind her. She just couldn't understand why her own grandfather would treat her this way. She cried and begged, desperately pounding on the door. But only silence answered her. After what felt like forever, she suddenly heard the heavy creak of a door opening. It was her aunt. Little Teal pleaded with her, begging to be let inside. But to her shock, her aunt completely brushed her off, and instead, began to coldly scold her. She snapped that today was the day they were buying a dress for her daughter, Rovi, and told Teal to stop making such a racket. Rovi was Teal's cousin. The only difference between them was that Rovi had those striking blue eyes, the true symbol of a snow leopard. She used to quietly wish, if only she had blue eyes too. Maybe she would be treated with that same warmth and love. Tiny tears couldn't help but roll down her cheeks. Freezing and unable to take it anymore, she begged her aunt to open the door, only to be met with a heartless rejection. How pathetic, a supposed snow leopard, shivering from the cold? With those cruel words, she slammed the door shut and left. Who knows how much time passed? But the heavy snow slowly buried her tiny, frail body. Her mind echoed with the sounds of Rovi and her grandfather's cheerful laughter. Her consciousness began to fade away into the dark. I just hope, in my next life, I can feel what a warm, happy family is like. But the heavens didn't let her go so easily. When she opened her eyes again, she found herself back in that dreary attic. It seemed someone had actually saved her. Looking down at the old scars on her hands. Wait, wasn't this from when Rovi ruthlessly pushed her down the stairs a whole month ago? Completely confused, she realized she had actually gone back in time. But her body felt a little different now. She could actually make herself glow like a tiny light bulb. But that didn't matter right now. This time, little Teal wasn't just going to sit around waiting for her end. She swore to change her fate of freezing out in the cold. Looking at her pale reflection and striking golden eyes in the mirror, she thought maybe, just maybe, she could find a glimmer of hope with the Black Panther clan. And right now was the perfect chance to run away. The NTLA household was completely distracted, running around like crazy trying to secure the crown princess position for Rovi. Nobody had the time to care about a little nobody like her. She packed up her tiny stash of leftover food, figuring it would just barely keep her from starving. But a sneaky little mouse almost snatched it away again. She quickly snatched it right back. Then, taking a sudden leap backward, poof, she actually transformed into her snow leopard form. Oh my gosh, she looked absolutely adorable. She had shifted just to scare the mouse away, but unexpectedly, she ended up scaring herself and completely buried her tiny face into the carpet. And just like that, the little snow leopard curled up tightly inside the rug, hugging her precious food. Feeling scared and a bit gloomy, she patiently waited for evening to fall. She remembered what her grandfather always used to say, that she was just a filthy half-blood who caused her mother's passing. Not only did the snow leopards despise her, even the Black Panther clan wanted to get rid of her. But honestly, right now, heading there was her only shot at surviving. Still, the timid little girl couldn't help but feel scared, clutching her tiny head as she trembled. Night soon fell, and the little snow leopard quietly made her move. Grandpa had always been so good to her, so naturally, she had to sneak into his room first to swipe a few valuables. After rummaging around, she was lucky enough to find some gold coins. This should be enough for a carriage ride, right? Suddenly, she also spotted a pendant belonging to the Black Leopard family. Why is something from the Black Leopards doing here? She wondered, examining it closely with a puzzled look. To her surprise, it held a picture of her mommy. The lonely little Teal couldn't hold back her tears. She decided to take it with her, hoping her mom would give her a little courage. Her plan seemed to be going perfectly, but she completely forgot about the nanny on patrol. The nanny thought it was Lady Rovi at first, but upon closer look, she realized it was that little soot sprite. Sneaking around like that, she was clearly up to no good. Guards were immediately called in to surround her, leaving little Teal with nowhere to run. Her only option was to dash into the royal guests' quarters. To avoid causing a panic, the guards had to pull back and report the situation to the lord of the house. It was little Teal's first time here. The dark, eerie surroundings terrified her, and she quickly got lost. If I get caught now, I'm doomed, she thought, completely unaware that someone was already standing right behind her. The moment the stranger's hand touched her, her little legs turned to jelly, and she flopped right onto the floor. Who are you? What are you doing in here? Snake-like green eyes locked onto her like prey. Faced with his sharp questioning, little Teal trembled, completely speechless. The boy quickly looked her over. Tattered clothes and golden eyes. Doesn't look like that, Miss Rovi. But obviously, that striking silver hair is definitely a trademark of the Snow Leopard clan. Speak up, or I'm throwing you out. Little Teal panicked. She gave a brief introduction, saying she was a snow leopard, just wanting to escape from this place. Suddenly, a knock came from the door. Looked like they were really after the girl. Without missing a beat, he told little Teal to shift back into a snow leopard and hide under the bed. The little snow leopard hurriedly scrambled underneath, completely unaware that her cute little behind was still sticking out. What a silly little thing. Just then, the adjutant walked in. He reported that a maid from the snow leopard family had lost her mind and run off. The boy casually replied that he hadn't seen her. Deep down, though, he found it highly suspicious. Someone with such obvious silver hair, and they were claiming she was just a maid? He immediately ordered that no one was to disturb his rest. As it turned out, he was actually the crown prince on an undercover visit. He hated dealing with trouble, but oh well, he was dragged into it now. Once the adjutant left, the crown prince motioned for the little snow leopard to come out. He asked what exactly was going on. With nowhere left to run, the little snow leopard was trapped. She had no choice but to reveal her background and her plans. When he found out the girl's father was actually a black panther, Crown Prince was completely stunned. He stared into her big, round golden eyes. So that's how it is. When little Teal heard that her little coin purse wouldn't be nearly enough to get her there, she instantly panicked. But to her surprise, he actually agreed to take her with him. That was the very first time she showed a smile. She was absolutely overjoyed. Ian gently waved his sleeve and summoned a blue magic orb, letting little Teal hide inside it so she wouldn't be discovered. Just like that, the little snow leopard was scooped up and tossed right into the spatial pocket. The moment her two little paws hit the ground, it was total chaos inside. It was pitch black, and if you even bumped into anything, it would just vanish. It scared her so much that her fur stood straight up. She had no choice but to tread very, very carefully. Right in front of her was a glowing pillow, sparkling so beautifully, like something truly magical. She reached out and gave it a tentative little poke. Phew, thank goodness it didn't disappear. The little snow leopard's heart did a happy leap. Finally, she had a warm place to sleep. The very next day, the adjutant exchanged a few quick pleasantries and was already turning to leave. This seriously ticked off her grandfather. He had been scheming for months to secure the crown princess position. Simmering with bitter resentment, he really wanted to teach that unlucky bastard a harsh lesson. How dare they ruin his perfect plan? He had fully intended for the adjutant to meet his granddaughter, Rovi. Smack. His relentless, pushy attitude had clearly struck a nerve and infuriated the other man. And to make matters even worse, Rovi suddenly barged right into the room, completely ignoring the tension. Her eyes sparkled with hope as she eagerly asked if she could go to the royal palace, even though it was glaringly obvious she had already been disqualified. But she still naively kept nagging him. When are you taking me? The man completely ignored her. He just dropped a cold goodbye and walked out. It was all that little soot ball's fault. The head of the family was seething with frustration, but his hands were tied. There was absolutely nothing he could do. He could only force a stiff smile and walk them to the door. And as a final insult, he got totally outplayed by the crown prince. The door slammed shut with a deafening bang, leaving the old man standing there completely dumbfounded. Outside, the crown prince grumbled impatiently. If it weren't for his overwhelming powers taking such a massive toll on his body, he wouldn't be in such a desperate rush to find a mate to share the burden. And he certainly wouldn't have to deal with all these obnoxious nobles shamelessly kissing his ass. Right then, Ian suddenly remembered. The little snow leopard was still in his pocket dimension. He hurriedly and ever so gently reached in and pulled out the drowsy, confused little snow leopard cub. The adjutant just stood there, absolutely dumbfounded. He took off his glasses, frantically rubbed the lenses, and put them back on, just to make sure he wasn't hallucinating. Without missing a beat, Ian gave the order. Set a course for the Black Panther territory. We're taking this little one home. The adjutant was briefly confused by the order, but knowing Ian's status as crown prince, he knew better than to question it. The little snow leopard blinked her big, innocent eyes. In a tiny, nervous voice, she mumbled that she needed to go to the Black Panther estate to find her daddy. Those striking golden eyes, unique only to Black Panthers, paired with the signature silver hair of a snow leopard. It instantly clicked in the adjutant's mind, reminding him of that wild rumor. Cassius and Reyna, who were supposed to be sworn enemies, had defied their families, fallen in love, and secretly had twins. But then, during her third pregnancy, tragedy struck. And that unborn child had mysteriously vanished without a trace. It was a scandal that had shaken everyone. Before long, they arrived at the Grand Black Panther estate. The moment Ian stepped out of the car, he demanded to see the head of the family. I believe, I've found your missing little girl, he declared. The moment those words hit the butler's ears, he practically sprinted to usher them inside. Oh my god, the interior was unbelievably luxurious. Little Teal gasped in absolute awe. This place was massive. It had to be at least twice the size of her awful grandfather's house. It was her very first time wearing a proper, fancy dress. Honestly, if her big brother Ian wasn't standing right beside her, she would have felt completely out of place. Once they were led into the grand reception room, little Teal fidgeted nervously. She was so anxious she couldn't even bring herself to sit down on the plush sofa. She was terrified of ruining the beautiful new clothes Ian had bought her. Seeing her standing there so stiffly, Ian teased with a soft smile. Well now, seems like you won't behave unless I make you sit down, huh? Little Teal's cheeks flushed a bright, shy pink. Soon, a massive feast of delicious food was brought to the table. Her tiny tummy let out a loud grumble, but she still hesitated to take a bite. Were all these amazing treats really just for her? But she was so scared. What if they thought she was greedy for eating the second she arrived? What if her new family hated her? Pop. Before she could overthink it, a sweet, fluffy piece of dessert was playfully popped right into her tiny mouth. Oh my gosh, it was so incredibly delicious she felt like she was floating on clouds. But suddenly, the heavy double doors swung wide open. The head of the Black Panther family, her father, had arrived. Panic struck little Teal. She scrambled to her feet, totally freezing up. He looked so tall, so imposing and unapproachable. She had practiced her opening greeting in her head a million times. But then she remembered her awful grandfather saying her dad would literally kill her. Terrified, she just kept her head down, too scared to squeak out a single word. But little did she know, the huge, intimidating man standing before her was already choking back tears. For a few long, silent seconds, they just stood there looking at each other. Seeing each other for the first time, it felt as though hours had dragged on. Little Teal clutched the object in her palm, drawing courage from it as if it were her lifeline. She pulled out the pendant, proving exactly who she was. She pleaded with him, her voice trembling. Please let me stay. I won't eat much. I'll even sleep in the storage room. This heartbreaking plea struck her father right in the chest. Seeing his daughter in such pain felt like a dagger twisting in his heart. He wanted nothing more than to pull her into a comforting hug. But to his dismay, little Teal shrank back in fear. He had to swallow his overwhelming emotions down. He had no choice but to ask her to leave the room for a bit, gently saying he needed to speak with his guest. He ordered the maids to take little Teal to rest. But being suddenly sent away like that, left a bitter taste in Teal's mouth. Her dad hadn't actually said he would take her in. It left her completely terrified of the future. She had absolutely no money, and no food. She might actually have to sell that expensive dress Ian had given her. The thought alone broke her heart. By the time the maids finally came to check on her, tears were already welling up in her eyes. They immediately rushed over to comfort the poor girl, bringing her plates of delicious food. They assured her the Duke would be there soon. Hearing this, Teal quickly wiped away her tears. She decided to just forget about her worries and eat. If she got kicked out on an empty stomach, she'd definitely regret it. Meanwhile, Cassius was finding out exactly what his daughter had been through. Her tiny, fragile body was covered in scars, and the snow leopards had even degraded her as some deranged little servant. He could easily piece together why. The blackened snow leopards were still locked in a bitter struggle for power. The snow leopards had been facing an absolute decline, teetering on the edge of ruin. But Raina's arrival changed everything. Her extraordinary talents gave the snow leopards a glimmer of hope, until she ultimately chose to be with Cassius instead. So, Teal became their hidden pawn. It was sickening. Grown adults actually using an innocent child for their petty wars. It was absolutely infuriating. Just then, a maid burst into the room in an absolute panic. The young miss brought by our guest has collapsed. She cried. Cassius's heart dropped in panic. He sprinted straight to the dining room. Little Teal was barely conscious, weakly mumbling out apologies. She lay deathly pale in the maid's arms. He immediately ordered them to carry her up to a bed, and to fetch a doctor, immediately. Seeing her little plates and silverware shattered across the floor, his tightly clenched fists showed just how furious he was. Thank God, it wasn't life-threatening. It was just a terribly high fever. Still, Cassius was consumed by overwhelming guilt. He should have told his little girl she was safe first, so she wouldn't be so afraid. As long as you want it, I will give you the absolute world. He made up his mind to get a paternity test and officially register Teal into the family. Years ago, he had already left a lock of his hair at the temple, waiting for the day his daughter would finally be found. And finally, his unwavering faith had paid off. Seeing that the situation was handled, Ian had no choice but to head back to the palace. It was a shame he couldn't say a proper goodbye to the girl. Meanwhile, the moment Teal's grandfather heard the news, he rushed over from 800 miles away. He was absolutely desperate to see his precious granddaughter. Even when her dad told him she was resting, he had to sneak a little peek at her from the doorway. Just seeing her safe and sound completely melted his heart. At last, the Duke gently closed her bedroom door, and her grandfather quietly slipped away. But deep in her sleep, little Teal was trapped in a nightmare. She was running for her life, relentless dark hands grabbing at her from behind. They were trying to drag her down. She jolted awake, gasping for air. She blinked, realizing she was tucked into a warm, incredibly soft bed. Wait, weren't they going to kick her out? Just then, she heard furious, hushed whispers from out in the hallway. I swear, I'm going to kill that bastard. Those violent words sent a terrifying chill straight down her spine. It made her feel like there was no safe place for her in this family, either. In the dead of night, she felt she had no other choice. She shifted back into her tiny snow leopard form to make her move. But this time, she wasn't sneaking around to scavenge for food. She was making a run for it. Soon, the news of little Teal's disappearance reached her father. His hands instantly flared up, summoning several fire spirits. Even if you have to dig 3,000 feet underground, find her and bring her back to me. He gritted his teeth so hard they nearly cracked. Daddy hasn't even done anything for you yet. This time, he had to make things absolutely clear to her. Not long after, he learned his daughter was found hiding in a basement, and rushed over immediately. There she was, curled up in a tiny ball in the corner, trembling as she begged them to spare her. Completely oblivious to the absolute heartbreak in the eyes behind her, her father's gentle call startled her out of her wits. The trauma from the snow leopard family was scarred into her soul. That sheer terror unexpectedly triggered her dormant magic. With a blinding flash of golden light, the man was left completely stunned. Little Teal instantly collapsed and fainted on the floor. When she finally opened her eyes again, her father was already right by her side, keeping watch. She could still faintly hear the echoes of his gentle, comforting words right before she passed out. It was just that back then, her absolute terror had drowned out everything else. The arrival of a chief doctor made little Teal realize that she actually meant a whole lot to her father now. She thought back to the doctors at the snow leopard estate. Even when she was covered in bloody bruises, they wouldn't even spare her a single piece of gauze. Realizing his precious little girl was still so anxious, the man gently reassured her. Those pure, sparkling golden eyes of yours. They are more than enough proof that you belong to the Black Panther family. Hearing that she was actually allowed to stay here, and could even eat all the sweet, yummy food she wanted. Her father's heartwarming promise left her absolutely thrilled. So, her father ordered the servants to bring out the desserts. A look of pure, unadulterated happiness radiated from her face. The feeling of being hand-fed, bite by sweet bite, was so amazing it almost made the little snow leopard poof right back into her animal form. When she found out that this incredibly gentle maid was going to be her own personal attendant, little Teal's sense of security skyrocketed. Meanwhile, the Duke was pacing around the living room, stomping his feet in utter anxiety because he couldn't see his beloved granddaughter. Cassius gave it to him straight. He told him that his daughter had awakened the power of light last night. It wasn't the ice of the snow leopards, nor was it the raging fire of the Black Panthers. This left the Duke completely speechless. Such a power was supposed to only exist in myths and legends. But what was even less known was a deeply hidden secret, passed down only among the heads of the Panther clan. The power of light could dispel any curse. With the current political situation being so volatile, if the temple or the royal family ever caught wind of this, the peaceful life they had just barely scraped together would be violently thrown right back into chaos. That was the absolute last thing Cassius wanted. All he wanted in this world was for his daughter to grow up happy and safe. Several days went by, and little Teal still hadn't fully gotten used to her new life. She sat as stiff as a board on the very edge of the sofa, too scared to move an inch, no matter how much her father tried to coax her. So, Dad had to pull a little trick on her. She looked so adorably awkward and just a tiny bit shy. Seeing her loosen up, her father finally let out a satisfied smile, and the thick walls little Teal had built up around her heart slowly began to melt away. It was just such ordinary, everyday kindness, but it was enough to actually make her giggle. His eyes were absolutely brimming with heartbreak as he thought, just how much happiness did those monsters steal from you? After that, her father sat her down to talk about the secret behind her powers. Little Teal was utterly shocked to realize she had practically become the Empire's most prized treasure. Father, does that mean I can finally do something to help the family? Her sudden, desperate need to be useful felt like a knife twisting right in his chest. The veins on the back of his hands bulged one by one from pure fury. He would never, ever force his own daughter to do something she didn't want to do. This was completely opposite to her grandfather's way of thinking. Hearing her daddy say that he only wanted her to be happy every single day, and that he would handle absolutely everything else. He only told her about her special powers just so she'd know, not because he wanted to use her for anything. Hearing that, little Teal finally let out a massive sigh of relief. Okay, Daddy. Meanwhile, back at the snow leopard estate, the head of the family was foaming at the mouth with absolute rage because he couldn't find his little soot ball. Going out in such brutal weather was basically a death sentence. And if the Black Panthers somehow found out, it would be an absolute disaster. He barked out orders to double the search efforts. Only this time, the moment they found her, they were to kill her on sight. Compared to her unloving snow leopard grandpa, little Teal was terrified of her notoriously cruel Black Panther grandpa. They hadn't even met yet, and he was already planning to off her. So, when she heard that he was showering her with gifts, a shiver went straight down her spine. Was he trying to smother her in a golden cage? What a sick, twisted hobby. These mind games. The more little Teal thought about it, the more terrified she became. Few days later, word came that Grandpa was home and wanted to see his granddaughter. It was finally time for their very first official meeting. Having heard rumors that his precious granddaughter hated him, Grandpa immediately tried to clear the air. You might have misunderstood me. He hurriedly called little Teal over to clear up the misunderstanding. But despite his gentle tone, little Teal just kept her head nervously bowed down. Combined with the murderous threats she'd overheard at her other grandpa's place, she stammered as she brought up what happened that night. Hearing this, Grandpa was like, "Whoa, hold up." He practically dropped to his knees, frantically shouting his explanation. But that just scared the poor little cub even more. Great, now the misunderstanding was even worse. He frantically clarified that those threats were meant for her other grandpa. He was the one you wanted to kill. It's all that bastard Cassius's fault for not letting me see my granddaughter. Seeing her fierce grandpa explaining himself so clumsily, little Teal couldn't help but giggle. She shyly thanked him for giving her such a massive room. Oh, Grandpa's heart absolutely soared. He was ready to rip his own heart out just to give it to her as a toy. Then, he casually rolled out a whole truckload of gifts. He'd even specially prepared a fluffy, stuffed Black Panther plushie. Little Teal absolutely adored it. Seeing his precious granddaughter looking so incredibly happy, he was practically glowing with pride. Your older brothers loved these when they were little, too. I'm just glad you like it. Little Teal blinked, completely bewildered. Wait, nobody had told her she had 2 older brothers? Hearing that they were rushing all the way back from the academy, little Teal grew anxious again. Will they blame me for what happened to Mom? Hearing their baby sister was running a 300-degree fever, the 2 brothers practically ran their legs off. They dropped everything and hauled ass back home, even though they totally refused to admit they cared. And so, the wildly dysfunctional family was finally reunited. It was little Teal's very first time meeting her brothers. Her heart was pounding out of her chest. Thankfully, her dad stepped in with a warm greeting. In the midst of her daze, one of the brothers broke the ice. Faraday introduced himself first, looking like a perfect, elegant gentleman. Little Teal stuttered out her name, but out of nowhere, Rudian rudely cut her off. Only 7? Man, you're tiny. Talk about an intimidating first impression. Little Teal was so scared she felt like she might just pass out. Noticing she looked absolutely nothing like their mother, Rudian couldn't help but bluntly point it out. Wow, that's wild, he joked. But those words instantly dragged up little Teal's traumatic memories. So that's what her other grandpa meant when he called her a freakish half-breed. Thankfully, her dad quickly shut it down. You sure talk a lot of crap, don't you? He snapped, ordering them to stay far away from their little sister for the time being. The 2 boys could only obediently agree. Not missing a beat, Faraday took the chance to throw his brother under the bus. Stop being such a jerk to our little sister, will you? He scolded, before smoothly passing a plate of food to little Teal. With a flawless, charming smile, he told her how incredibly happy he was to finally have a cute little sister. That brought the little snow leopard some much-needed comfort. Meanwhile, the hot-headed Rudian was watching them, getting more and more pissed off by the second. They were literally just complaining about how annoying having a sister would be on the way here. Now look at your two-faced act. Even though they were twins, their personalities were like night and day. Unlike the reckless and blunt Rudian, the calm and calculated Faraday was always plotting 5 steps ahead. From the very beginning, he didn't believe little Teal was the real deal. After all, the paternity test for this little sister hadn't even come back yet. She won over father and grandfather simply with her unique looks and that pitiful, lovable face. Even though he acted like he adored his little sister, deep down, he thought the exact opposite. He didn't believe for a second that little Teal could break the curse, even if everyone else was completely fooled. He wasn't going to fall for it that easily. So, he made it his mission to expose his sister's true colors. But little Teal's disguise was just too flawless. The very next day, Teal started getting the feeling that her 2 older brothers really didn't like her anymore. I mean, they were being way too suspicious and obvious about it. Peeking through the windows, stalking her through the halls. Her little face pouted as she muttered to herself. Did I do something wrong? She wondered. The maid tried to explain that it was just orders from the adults. A strict ban to avoid direct contact for now. But ever since that incident in the dining room, Faraday's eyes had lost all their warmth. Every time he looked at her, it felt like a cold interrogation. That intense, guarded feeling. It felt exactly like being back in her old, abusive home. Just then, the maid announced the Crown Prince's arrival. The moment she heard Brother Ian was here to see her, little Teal instantly perked right up, which immediately sent the 2 brothers hiding in the bushes into a total panic. They hurriedly, yet elegantly, stepped out of hiding. This is completely outrageous. They, her own brothers, weren't allowed near her, but he just gets to stroll in and see her because he saved her life? As her older brother, how could he lose to some outsider? He ordered the maid to tell that jerk to get lost. The poor maid looked like she wanted the ground to swallow her whole. Are you seriously asking me to tell the crown prince to get lost? Before she could even finish, the crown prince strutted over with absolute arrogance. A casual greeting between friends, mixed with concern for the little sister's safety. The battle for Little Teal instantly turned into a heated argument. I saved your precious little sister. And this is how the mighty Black Panther family repays me? The brother opened his mouth to argue back. But wait, he still hadn't officially accepted her as his sister yet, had he? So, Little Teal had to step in to keep the peace. She softly begged her brothers to give them just a little time alone. Her adorable puppy dog eyes instantly melted their cold hearts. Then, the two brothers immediately clashed, one saying yes, the other yelling no. The crown prince was on the verge of losing his temper. Right at that tense moment, Little Teal's tiny hands gently grabbed Faraday sleeve. Could you come with me, brother? Faraday was completely defeated by her absolute cuteness and instantly agreed. Rudian burned with jealousy and tried to protest, but Faraday quickly shut him up by bringing up his unfinished homework. So completely shameless. On the outside, he claimed he was just keeping a close watch on her. But it was wildly obvious he was just drowning in his little sister's cuteness. Soon enough, the group arrived in the living room. Seeing how happy and well Little Teal was doing, Ian finally let out a sigh of relief. Then, he flexed his absolute wealth. A massive mountain of gorgeous dresses appeared, leaving Little Teal completely speechless. But how could her brother let her get swept away by another guy? He immediately started throwing shade. He scoffed, acting like it was nothing special. HMPH, her brothers could easily do all this too. It's just a few ordinary little dresses. I could buy her 100 of those without blinking. Neither of them was willing to back down. The intense glare down left Little Teal sweating nervously. She quickly stepped in and picked out the most modest, affordable dress in the pile to say thank you. I just want this one. This is plenty. But Ian wasn't having any of it. Do you really want people thinking that I, the crown prince of the empire, I'm so cheap I only bought you one dress? That totally panicked Little Teal. If that was the case, she better just accept them all. Truth be told, Ian Steele felt a little guilty about only buying her one dress last time. But he had no idea that the sweet girl already treasured that single gift with all her heart. Not to be outdone, her brother fired back. This, brother Ian, of yours is just putting on a show. Later, once your true identity is out, you'll have an endless line of people trying to suck up to you. Ian's patience was clearly wearing dangerously thin from the constant insults. Seriously, why was this older brother such a massive pain in the neck? Without warning, Ian snatched Little Teal by the hand and pulled her close to his side. He declared he'd take her to the palace. After all, the paternity test results aren't even out yet, right? But he quickly realized that the identity test had always been weighing heavily on Little Teal's mind. What if things went wrong? He immediately made a heartwarming promise. It's okay, you're just so adorable. If you're not really a part of this family, I'll just take you to live in the palace with me. Her brother panicked. He hastily swooped in to reclaim his protective rights over his little sister. He strictly forbade her from agreeing to such requests. He needed to talk some sense into his innocent little sister, and fast. Little Teal nodded in a daze. On one side was her fiercely loving brother, and on the other was Ian, who had been protecting her. It felt like a total beginner suddenly stumbling into a high-stakes match. She had absolutely no idea what to do. Seeing this, Ian didn't want to put Little Teal in a tough spot. He turned around, ready to leave. She hurriedly chased after him to make amends. After all, her current happiness was all thanks to the Crown Prince's help. Don't worry, I'll be back. A dazzling, gentlemanly kiss on the hand followed his promise. Next time, I'll bring you an even better gift. That sudden, smooth move was an absolute critical hit, declaring a crushing defeat for her brother, Faraday. Just then, Rudian finally arrived. The moment he heard about the Crown Prince's flawless exit, his face darkened with jealousy. The little snow leopard was blushing so hard she couldn't even speak. Faraday was absolutely furious. Forget about their sister's identity test for a moment, they now had a much more critical mission. They absolutely could not let that scumbag prince get anywhere near their precious sister. Meanwhile, Little Teal was crying on the inside. But what if I want to see him? She thought. At the exact same time, a mysterious letter was delivered directly into the hands of the snow leopard patriarch. The news of the little snow leopard running away from home had broken. The patriarch crushed the envelope in his grip, radiating pure hostility. Yet, a flicker of unease flashed in his eyes. The letter was actually sent by the Black Panthers. Without offering a single excuse, they forcefully stripped away his custody rights over Little Teal. They also completely severed all transportation and trade routes with the snow leopards. It turned out, this ruthless move was the handiwork of her father and grandfather. Even though this drastic action might cause some trouble for Little Teal, there was no way. There was no way they were going to let that grudge go unpunished. The snow leopard patriarch looked utterly distressed. In just 3 short days, how on earth did that little furball end up thousands of miles away in the Black Panther territory? She must have been secretly smuggled out by that royal carriage. Just what kind of charm did she possess to actually make the royal palace intervene on her behalf? Just thinking about the arrogant attitude the adjutant gave him that day made his blood boil. He immediately ordered the maid from that night to be severely punished and thrown out on the streets. Rovi panicked when she heard the news. That maid had been her nanny since she was a baby. But the snow leopard patriarch was already consumed by blinding rage. For the very first time, he exploded in anger at his precious granddaughter. Disheartened and crushed, the girl turned and walked away. But this was just the beginning of their karma. A few days passed. Little Teal's samples had been sent in for testing quite a while ago. But the results were completely delayed. This was likely some dirty trick pulled by the snow leopards behind the scenes to stall the process. The mere thought of little Teal being forced back to the snow leopards to suffer made her grandfather sick with anxiety. But on the bright side, the NTLA family was eagerly looking forward to officially introducing their little snow leopard to the world. They were ready to shower her with mountains of gifts and host an endless stream of lavish banquets. Any girl would absolutely love that. However, when she heard about the plans, little Teal was overwhelmed with worry. She had zero experience with high society social events. Her dad noticed her unease in an instant. He softly comforted her, telling her there was absolutely nothing to worry about. If you don't want a public introduction, then we simply won't have one. Whatever you want, Daddy will make it happen. Meanwhile, ever since they were finally allowed near her, her brothers couldn't wait another second. They sprinted to her room, excitedly offering to let little Teal ride on their shoulders. Rudian eagerly showed her around the whole mansion, but Faraday, who had tagged along, just scoffed at the tour. Compared to Rudian's playful antics, the fairy tale book in Faraday's hands completely captivated little Teal. She used to only be able to eavesdrop from outside the door, so she cherished this moment even more. Seeing the little snow leopard so utterly engrossed, Faraday didn't miss the chance to shoot a smug look at Rudian. Rudian grew more pissed off by the second. This guy was clearly on guard, yet faking being so close to her. Obviously, he loved their little sister way more. When Faraday read the part where a lion burst into the forest, Rudian immediately cut him off, insisting that seeing it with her own eyes would be way more fun. He instantly summoned a roaring lion out of pure flames, which seriously pissed Faraday off. He worried it would terrify little Teal, but instead, she looked up with eyes full of absolute awe. Well, okay, guess he was wrong. Hearing that his little sister actually wanted to learn magic, Faraday knew his moment had arrived. He didn't truly believe little Teal possessed the power of light. He decided to take her to the training grounds. He explained that to cast a spell, you have to picture its shape in your mind. But right now, Faraday didn't look like he was just demonstrating. The flames around his body flared up violently. At first, little Teal was just gasping in amazement. But things quickly took a dark turn. The roaring inferno suddenly started obliterating everything around them. Sensing the danger, Rudian desperately shouted at him to stop, but it was already too late to rein it in. The blood-curdling madness curse of the Black Panther clan had been triggered. Rudian tried to fight back the blaze, but ended up injured and powerless. The scorching sea of fire roared higher and higher. Little Teal couldn't help but blame herself. If she hadn't begged to see magic, her brother wouldn't be hurt. Just then, a voice echoed deep within her mind. Only her power could save him now. Despite her fears, little Teal decided to risk it all. Even if there was only a sliver of hope. Through the haze of his madness, Faraday watched his little sister bravely walk toward him. In that very moment, her pure, innocent kindness shined through. He couldn't believe he had doubted someone so pure-hearted. Ignoring the danger, little Teal dashed straight into the blazing inferno, throwing her arms wide open and crying out, "Please, please let my big brother come back safely." Blinding, radiant light tore through the night sky, instantly swallowing the raging sea of fire. As the intense glare slowly faded away, a gentle golden glow showered over Faraday. But little Teal suddenly lost consciousness, collapsing right into her brother's arms. That dazzling holy light, however, had just sent shockwaves across the NTLA Empire. The rebirth of an ancient legend. Who knows what kind of disaster this might bring upon little Teal. The little snow leopard spiked a severe fever again, leaving her fiercely overprotective brothers absolutely heartbroken. Remembering how she recklessly ran into the flames for him, Faraday's heart was consumed by guilt. Deep down, it hadn't even mattered to him whether Teal was the real deal or not. He just hated how much he desperately hoped for the light. He was terrified. He was terrified that chasing an empty illusion would only end in shattering disappointment. He was scared. He was in agony. And now, his little sister's life was on the line because of him. The brothers explained everything to their father. Since things had already come to this, their dad just prayed for his precious daughter to wake up soon. Though, he really should have built a roof over that training ground sooner. There was no way the royal family would just ignore a light like that. If the legends were true, he needed to rush that paternity test immediately. Early the next morning, little Teal finally opened her eyes. The very first thing she did was check on Faraday. When she found out her brother was perfectly safe and had stayed by her side all night, little Teal was completely stunned. After getting properly dressed, she quietly slipped over to her brother's room, where they were overwhelmed with relief to see their little sister was finally alright. Ignoring Rudian's teasing, Faraday immediately wrapped little Teal in a tight, grateful hug. "Promise me, never hurt yourself like that again, okay?" His sweet little sister nodded in his arms. Just then, their father arrived. He had planned to take his precious daughter out. On the way, he gently scolded her for acting so recklessly. If her light powers hadn't manifested, the consequences would have been unimaginable. But he quickly thanked little Teal for stepping in to save Faraday. He was scolding her, but honestly, he was just terrified of losing her. He begged her to cherish her own life. Hearing how even his scolding was overflowing with love, little Teal was incredibly touched and so happy. "I know, thank you, Daddy." Soon enough, the two arrived at the patriarch's quarters. Grandpa was beyond relieved to see his granddaughter safe and sound. He scooped his precious girl right up into his arms, carried her over to the bookshelf, and told her to press the red book. A secret room swung open. Clearly, no paternity test was needed here. Only true family blood could unlock this chamber, built specifically for an awakener of light. Guided by her grandpa, little Teal stepped onto a specific spot. The light in her hands began to radiate all on its own, and golden runes suddenly flared to life across the room. It meant that light could counterbalance darkness. If she could perfectly suppress it, she could break the Black Panther family's generational curse, and unleash the sealed power within them. After everything that happened last night, young little Teal was already starting to catch on. She realized she was now the hope of the NTLA family. After stepping out of the secret room, her father watched her walk away, his expression growing heavy. He swore a silent oath in his heart. "I will protect you." A fierce, sharp glint flashed in his eyes. "And of course, I'll never let those people lay a single finger on you." It was obvious. The letters from the royal family and the temple had already arrived. They mentioned the strange light in the sky last night, and, using the paternity test as an excuse, they invited the Black Panther family over to collect the results. It was a blatant trick. Cassius scoffed with sheer disdain. "Let's just see what kind of trouble you can steal up." Ever since they cleared the air, Faraday and his sister had grown so much closer. Honestly though, weren't they already pretty close? "Is it yummy? Do you want me to get you some more?" The maid gently reminded them that these were just pre-dinner snacks, and strictly limited to one per person. Hearing this, Rudian immediately handed his portion over to his little sister. Being the sweet girl she is, little Teal cut off a piece and fed him first. Rudian was practically melting from joy. Then, she split the rest evenly with her other brother, before finally taking a bite herself. Watching this heartwarming scene unfold, their father was overwhelmed with emotion. This was the exact family moment he had been dreaming of for so long. Afterward, he told little Teal to get a good night's sleep, since they had to go to the temple tomorrow to pick up the test results. Little Teal was still a bit anxious about it. Her two brothers instantly insisted on tagging along. Clearly, protecting their baby sister was now their absolute top priority. Honestly, they looked more intense than the bad guys. Next day, since it was the young lady's very first time going out, the maids bickered endlessly over which hairstyle to give her. After a flurry of fussing and styling, they finally finished getting her ready. A super cute new hair accessory, successfully unlocked. Sparkling and shining, the little snow leopard was absolutely thrilled. She used to be ruthlessly mocked in the snow leopard family, but now, she was their little angel. Her older brothers were completely mesmerized. Rudian was just about to gently pat his little sister's head, but he suddenly stopped. Her hair was just way too pretty to mess up. He was terrified of breaking it. Her brother hurried the two of them along. "It's time to go. Dad's probably getting impatient by now." Before long, the group arrived at the temple. Cassius scooped his little girl right up into his arms. No matter what dirty tricks the temple tried to pull, he wasn't going to let little Teal out of his sight for even a second. The precious little bundle in his arms was a nervous wreck, too, remembering her brother's strict warning. If she ran into any bad guys, she just needed to scream no at the top of her lungs. As they ventured deeper into the temple halls, they were met face to face by the high priest. He bluntly demanded another on-the-spot test. "Just to ensure the results are perfectly accurate," he claimed. Little Teal immediately shot him a fierce glare. She came this close to screaming no, just like her brother told her, but managed to bite her tongue in the end. But was this really about finding the truth? The holy water in the basin pulsed with divine power. They shared the same blood, it was supposed to glow blue. Strands of both their hair were dropped in, slowly sinking to the bottom. But absolutely nothing happened. What a shame. It seems this child isn't the one you're looking for. In a flash, Cassius realized they'd been set up. They were trying to use fake results to break the little girl's heart. Plus, the temple had a shady unwritten rule. Any child left without a family would be seized and raised by the temple. Right on cue, a few nearby priests started closing in. Now they were in real trouble. Having striking silver hair while being born into a family with exclusively pitch black hair. Hearing that she supposedly wasn't her daddy's little girl, anyone would expect the tiny snow leopard to absolutely break down in tears. But instead, her big round eyes just blinked in confusion. That's so weird. That can't possibly be right. The priests stood there, completely dumbfounded. They couldn't believe a mere toddler was calling them out. Honestly, one of them had been against this stupid plan from the very start. They really think the mighty Black Panther family wouldn't see right through such a cheap parlor trick? In the past, little Teal might have been insecure. But ever since her own blood unlocked their family's secret vault, she knew deep down that no one could twist the truth of who she was. Without a second thought, little Teal plucked out a few strands of her own hair and looked up at her dad. Her father smiled, knowing exactly what she meant. He pulled a lock of his own hair and, completely ignoring the protests of the priests, tossed them straight into the holy water. She wasn't scared, she wasn't panicked at all, because she knew, without a shadow of a doubt, that her daddy truly loved her. Meanwhile, the high priest was looking awfully smug. He knew the holy water would only react if divine power was actively poured into it. But then, boom, the moment their hair hit the surface, the NTLA basin exploded with a blinding golden light. This wasn't just some basic paternity test anymore. She was literally resonating with the very core of the temple itself. Even then, the stubborn high priest desperately tried to talk his way out of it, yelling that it had to glow blue to prove anything. But right at that moment, as long as someone acting as a proxy steps in, that's fine, right? Out of nowhere, the crown prince himself made a grand entrance. The high priest instantly broke into a cold sweat. He knew perfectly well that the crown prince was the only other person officially authorized to act as a proxy. He'd just been completely outplayed. Ian didn't even know what to say to this silly little snow leopard. Following her lead, the crown prince infused his divine magic. And just like that, the water slowly shifted into a brilliant, undeniable blue. The proof was right there. No one dared to utter a single word. Big brother Ian had saved the day once again. Overwhelmed with gratitude, she pitter-pattered right over to him. Thank you so much, Ian. When I grow up, I promise I'm going to repay you. Ian blinked, taken aback for a second. Then, a soft smile crossed his face. He gently cupped her sweet, innocent little cheeks. Well then, I'll have to think very hard about exactly how you can repay me. Watching this, her real brother, Rudian, was practically foaming at the mouth with jealousy. Thank goodness his dad clamped a heavy hand on his shoulder to hold him back. Seriously? Dad? Ow, you're crushing my shoulder. You need to calm down too, okay? Once the chaos finally settled down, the high priest was bracing himself, absolutely certain he was about to face the firing squad. Lucky for him, Cassius didn't even think he was worth a second glance. Since the results are crystal clear, well then, let's go home. At that very moment, little Tear finally let go of all her worries. This notoriously crazy family finally had their precious daughter. If her dads were considered the big bad villains, well, wasn't she basically a professional little foodie herself? Sitting in the carriage, the crown prince was filled with a deep sense of emotion. Tear's growth was astonishing. She had gone from that little crybaby in the past, to the brave girl she was today. It was both adorable and absolutely mind-blowing. This couldn't help but make him think back to his own past. Back when everyone saw him as a monster, when even the emperor wanted him dead. Thank God his parents fought to the death to protect him, though he managed to survive thanks to his royal blood. It came with a crushing condition. The emperor was forcing him to marry a crown princess as soon as possible. All just to weaken his power. Now, his one and only comfort was slipping into that alternate dimension. It was pitch black in there, but surprisingly, there was a pink throw pillow that looked completely out of place. He leaned in to take a soft sniff. To his surprise, the pillow still held the faint, sweet scent of the little snow leopard. Instantly, everything made sense to him, and the very last trace of heaviness in his heart finally melted away. Thank you. The next day, just as expected, little Tear became the absolute center of attention, looking at a literal truckload of invitations from the nobles. Their eyes practically popped out of their heads, as if their adorable little sister was going to be won over that easily. The two fiercely protective brothers ripped them up, one by one. Meanwhile, their father started preparing a beautiful gown for his daughter. He insisted that formal occasions required proper and elegant at TLA. But Rudian immediately protested. He argued that they absolutely had to keep up with the latest trends. He even made a point to say that the dresses from the crown prince were totally out of style. Just throw them all in the trash. With no other choice, they decided to contact her peer, VA, for some fashion advice. The moment they heard that name, both brothers' hearts instantly skipped a beat. Hearing that VA was her older cousin, little Tear couldn't help but think of Roby. A wave of anxiety washed over her. Faraday gently stroked her hair, comforting her softly. Don't worry, sweetie, I can go shopping with you. Rudian also chimed in, looking super confident in his own fashion sense. Who would have thought Faraday would snap back, you'd better stay home. You'll just ruin our little sister's shopping mood. The two of them instantly started bickering so hard that their animal ears and tails popped right out. Wait, what is going on here? Speaking of the center of attention, her dad suddenly broke some news to her. The Crown Prince's birthday banquet for this year had been abruptly cancelled. What in the world happened? I treated you like a brother, and you're out here trying to hit on my little sister? The two violently protective brothers looked ready to murder him on the spot. But hey, the guy was the Crown Prince. Ever since the little snow leopard heard about Ian's birthday banquet mysteriously getting cancelled, her tiny face was filled with worry. In previous years, whenever the snow leopard family attended this grand banquet, they always had to custom order their gowns a whole month in advance. There had to be a serious reason behind this sudden cancellation. Right then, Rudian curiously brought up Little Tear's birthday, but it plunged the NTLA family into dead silence. He instantly cursed himself for being so incredibly clueless, because Little Tear's birthday was the exact same day as her mother's death anniversary. Little Tear herself wasn't even sure of the exact date. She could only guess that it was probably sometime in the winter. Because during the winter, the way her grandfather punished her was so much more brutal than usual. Hearing those words felt like a dagger straight to her father's heart. He immediately scooped her up and pulled her into a tight embrace. Oh, sweetheart, this isn't your fault. If your mom heard about this, she would absolutely tear your grandfather right in half. Those words instantly sent a shiver of fear down her spine. Imagining what her mommy looked like, she thought, wait, is my mommy some kind of man-eating monster? They encouraged her to cheer up. Her two overprotective brothers also took the chance to give their little sister some affectionate head rubs. Not long after, the Crown Prince arrived. Little Teal happily ran up to greet him. As soon as Ian saw her, he warmly told her to slow down, while the little snow leopard looked full of confidence. Seeing this filled the Crown Prince with emotion. She had really changed so much for the better. Along the way, Little Teal asked Ian to lean in close, and whispered to ask why his birthday party was cancelled. Is this little leopard worried about me? It turned out Ian had cancelled it because he already had other plans. Knowing it wasn't her fault that ruined things for him, Little Teal finally breathed a sigh of relief. But after a brief silence, she tugged at her clothes and mustered up her courage. She wanted to invite Ian to her home to celebrate his birthday. The more the little girl spoke, the shyer she got. Until the boy's gentle hand warmly gave her his answer. Is that really okay? No, absolutely not. Her two brothers popped out of nowhere, their faces dark with annoyance. Get your hands off her. But the innocent little snow leopard had no idea what was going on. My brothers are acting so weird today. Unexpectedly, the Crown Prince just parked himself on a seat. Well, I guess I'm spending my birthday right here then. Faraday was beyond irritated. Seeing the argument escalating, Little Teal started sweating, completely unsure of what to do. She just knew that spending a birthday all alone was so lonely. Realizing that Little Teal didn't even fully understand what a birthday was, Ian was just about to ask her about it, but Rudian quickly slapped a hand over his mouth. That topic is strictly forbidden. Then, her brother rushed to Little Teal's side to explain. The Crown Prince is not lonely at all. He has tons of friends around him. Ian immediately denied it. Seeing that his plan was about to fall apart, the Crown Prince proposed a deal. He offered to invite the royal family's personal designer to custom make a dress for Little Teal. The moment he said that, everyone was absolutely stunned. Because that lady exclusively served the royal family, and her creations were legendary enough to amaze the NTLA Empire's nobility. Even her brothers were a little tempted. But with the banquet coming up so soon, they ultimately chose to give in. Only then did Ian flash a satisfied smile. The power of wealth really was something else. Little Teal finally let out a long sigh of relief. Her heart was full of joy. That is just wonderful, Your Highness. Hearing this, Ian suddenly looked unhappy. I really don't like it when you call me, Your Highness. He fidgeted with his hands for a moment, his cheeks turning a bright shade of red. Just call me Ian. Little Teal looked a bit confused. Why is brother Ian acting so weird now too? Just as he was leaving, Ian revealed that the Emperor wanted to meet Little Teal. This completely freaked her brothers out. Were they planning to make their sister the Crown Princess? That title was a terrifying trap that would just drag her down to the bottom of the sea. The little snow leopard finally had a new home, but she was secretly hiding under her blankets, crying her little eyes out. All because the Black Panther family's estate was just way too hot. Her tiny body felt like it was burning up with a fever of 90 degrees. Earlier, when the two brothers heard the Emperor wanted to see their sister, their minds had immediately raced with suspicion. Ian quickly tried to clear things up, insisting he had absolutely no such intentions. After all, the position of Crown Princess was a huge deal, and Little Teal had already shown such incredible talent. It was only natural for him to consider it. Right then, Little Teal walked over, carrying dessert she had made with her own two hands. Ian suddenly remembered the pink pillow he saw in the space last night. He casually brought it up, asking if that throw pillow with 4 little bows on it belonged to her. Little Teal looked confused. Wait, didn't the one I saw have no decorations at all? she thought to herself. The whole thing felt pretty suspicious. Meanwhile, on the other side, the Emperor was sick with worry, but the head of the Black Panther family just came right out and said he knew exactly what was going on. He swore he would never let his precious granddaughter make the same mistakes, and the argument quickly heated up. The Emperor swore he had absolutely no such intentions, and added that the Crown Prince wouldn't agree to it either. It was just that the usually isolated prince had suddenly changed so much recently, making him genuinely curious about who had such an influence on him. But she still hasn't said a single word about the past. It seems she's hiding a painful secret. The festival, held once every 3 years, is coming up, and little Teal is so excited. Having been cooped up at home for so long, she is full of anticipation. But when she finds out that all the heirs will be attending, and thinks about those people from the Snow Leopard family, she starts feeling anxious. Faraday warmly comforts her, hearing that the people who bullied his sister will also show up. Rudian snorts, "Whoa, even though fights aren't allowed during the festival. Simply trashing a carriage shouldn't be a big deal, right?" The more little Teal listens, the more she feels something is off. But knowing they have her back, the little snow leopard finally feels a glimmer of excitement. The next day, little Teal wakes up, feeling incredibly hot and feverish all over. She realizes she has actually turned into a little snow leopard, and she can't even speak. After several tries, she still can't change back. Unable to make a sound, she struggles to jump over to the handbell. But unexpectedly, her little paws slip, and with a thud, the maid rushes in at the sound, only to find a young miss lying on the floor. The little snow leopard hurts so much that tears stream from her eyes. She whimpers, but can't form any words. The maid panics and asks if she should get Lord Cassius. Little Teal is secretly thrilled. With a tiny leap, she pounces right into the maid's arms. She is just too adorable. It turns out that because she's so young, she hasn't mastered her beast transformation yet. Her dad gently strokes and comforts her. She'll probably return to normal in a day or two. It's just that the Black Panther family's estate is already sweltering hot. And now she has to endure wearing a thick fur coat for a few days. It's time for the meeting. Dad brings the little snow leopard along. When everyone sees the young miss in her snow leopard form, they are totally captivated by her cuteness. Even Grandpa can't focus on the meeting. Meeting adjourned. Everyone, go home. As soon as he steps out, he urgently summons a painter, wanting to capture his precious granddaughter's adorable look. Then, he snatches the little snow leopard right out of Cassius's hands. But unexpectedly, Grandpa's palms are even hotter than Dad's. Just as he's about to kiss her, the little snow leopard quickly pushes him away, screaming internally that he's way too hot. Grandpa actually thinks he did something wrong, making his sweet granddaughter hate him again. It's just that Grandpa is literally burning up. Seeing this, Dad quickly snatches little Teal back. She barely manages to escape, only to have 2 more human furnaces suddenly appear. Now the little snow leopard is on the verge of tears, thinking she's completely doomed again. Luckily, at that very moment, Cousin VA arrives. She's here. The little snow leopard's cousin is finally here. As soon as she approaches, little Teal is too scared to even breathe, because just a second ago, she practically bit her brother's head off. It seems this cousin is no easy target either. She has a fearless personality. Right off the bat, she makes so much noise that Grandpa can't even work, but he doesn't dare do anything about it. Because everyone is terrified of her deadly grip. Auntie's family already has a great relationship with the Black Panthers. Rumor has it that VA threw a massive tantrum, crying and rolling on the floor for 3 whole days just to be let out of the house. Rudian feels inexplicably sympathetic. Auntie really had a hard time. But speaking of which, Cousin has been dying to pet the fluffy little snow leopard for ages. With her big dark eyes begging constantly, Rudian teasingly says in disbelief, "If she ends up in your hands, wouldn't it be a disaster?" But before he can even finish, he gets swallowed whole. This cousin's combat power is surprisingly terrifying. To save her own little life, little Teal sensibly scrambles over on her stubby little legs at lightning speed. "You're so cute. I am your cousin. If anyone bullies you from now on, just tell me." At this moment, little Teal feels a soothing coolness radiating from VA. The sweltering heat in her body instantly vanishes. She can't help but snuggle affectionately into her arms, instantly awakening VA's inner fangirl. She is so incredibly cute. I absolutely love her. The 2 brothers watching from the side were totally dumbfounded. VA is covered in muscles. Being hugged by someone so rock hard should definitely feel uncomfortable. But the craziest part was that their little sister was actually purring in pure satisfaction. Watching that really ticked them off. Unexpectedly, VA just scoffed at them. "You ignorant Black Panthers." It turns out her clan naturally possesses the wind attribute, and snow leopards are naturally terrified of the heat. She had only discovered this by pure accident. Earlier, at a tea party, Rovi threw a massive tantrum because of the heat. A pure-blood snow leopard's fur is just so incredibly thick. On the contrary, being a half-blood meant she handled it much better than Rovi did. Faraday's heart just ached for her. Turned out their little sister had just been enduring the heat all this time to hang out with them. Right then, VA ordered the butler to bring out 2 servings of ice cream. Rudian just had to tease her, saying she'd turn into a little wild boar if she kept eating. Looks like somebody completely forgot the beating he just took. The moment she heard ice cream, the little snow leopard's face instantly lit up with pure anticipation. She happily surrendered to the absolute bliss of being hand-fed. Meanwhile, the crown prince had just finished writing his letter, planning to have his adjutant deliver it to the royal designer. His adjutant, however, felt this was highly inappropriate, especially since the selection for the crown princess was currently underway. Sending a royal gown to Little Teal right now would inevitably spark a ton of malicious rumors. But Ian's mind was completely made up. Even though his past birthdays had been grand and lavish affairs, he had always felt incredibly lonely deep down. And this time, it was the little snow leopard who had actually taken the initiative to invite him. He was absolutely determined to give her the perfect gift, and absolutely no one was going to stop him. Little did he know, back on the other side, Little Teal was being aggressively cuddled to the point of losing her absolute mind. Oh, my poor little snow leopard. Could somebody please come and save her? Just to bring the little snow leopard home, her older cousin literally kicked her own father right out the front door. After a solid round of VA's aggressive petting, Little Teal had no choice but to shift back into her human form. But before she could even open her mouth to say thank you, her cousin pulled her right back into a suffocating hug. You are just way too cute. I seriously want to cuddle with you every single day. Crushed under her cousin's Hercules-level, 76-pack abs, the little snow leopard was totally at her mercy. Why don't you just move into my place? I'll save the absolute best room in the house just for you. Rudian found that a bit weird when he heard it. Wait, isn't the best room taken by our uncle, the Duke? VA couldn't care less about that. Anyone who got in her way was getting kicked to the curb. Little Teal was way too terrified to even open her mouth, frantically waving her hands to politely decline. Right now, all she wanted in the world was to keep snuggling up with her cousin. Sister, could I please feel that cool wind from you again, sister? I really love it. That adorable, pleading request completely melted VA's heart, and she immediately summoned a massive, howling tornado. It nearly flipped the NTLA Duke's mansion completely upside down. Rudian frantically had to step in and shut it down. Are you trying to completely demolish the Black Panther estate? Only then did VA finally snap back to reality. She stopped the wind just in time, but Little Teal was already so terrified she had popped right back into her snow leopard form. Her older cousin felt super guilty, wondering how on earth she could properly pamper the adorable little girl. So, she suggested they go out on a fun trip. She promised to buy her tons of delicious treats. But Little Teal was still a bit worried about it. After all, her dad had only made enemies with the temple to protect her. But when her cousin heard this, she totally brushed it off. Oh, I thought it was actually something serious. Don't even worry about it, I've got your back. Little Teal couldn't help but feel a little bit tempted. After all, the grand festival was coming up very soon. It would be a perfect chance for her to practice being brave. But, would her father really agree to this? EA, however, flashed an incredibly confident smirk. Don't you worry about a thing. I have 100 different ways to make it happen. Just trust your big sister. What followed was a relentless, infinite combo of absolutely unreasonable tantrums, dramatic crying, and rolling around on the floor. Even the usually calm and steady Cassius couldn't handle the sheer chaos. Amaterasu, that is an absolute killer move. Faraday quickly covered Little Teal's eyes. He prayed to himself, please, do not let my little sister learn this trick. She whispered a sweet plea to her dad. I just wanted to get a little taste of the outside world, so I can be perfectly ready for the festival. Hearing this, her dad completely froze. He never expected his daughter to care so much about the festival. Without missing a beat, he ordered the two brothers to protect their little sister at all costs. Cousin suddenly jumped to her feet. See? My trick works every single time. To keep a low profile on their trip out, Will had a stroke of genius. He tucked Little Teal, still in her fluffy snow leopard form, right into a basket. He kept using his wind magic to keep her nice and cool. There, totally foolproof. It literally looked like the big bad wolf snatching up Little Red Riding Hood. The two brothers were just speechless at her little stunt. So loud, Little Teal poked her tiny head out to peek at the world. Everything felt incredibly new and magical to her. The group finally arrived at the dessert shop Will had been bragging about. They expertly ordered the A, B, C, and D combo meals. Rudian was a bit confused. We literally have cake at home. Why go through all this trouble to come out? But Little Teal absolutely loved it. Shifting back from her animal form, her heart was just pounding with pure joy. The outside world is just so beautiful. But suddenly, her light magic triggered completely out of nowhere. Was there some kind of hidden secret here? Oh no, I am totally doomed. Little golden bubbles started bursting out of the tiny snow leopard's body, and Little Teal was sweating bullets in sheer panic. Just a little while ago, right after the group had arrived at the dessert shop. The exact moment she dropped her animal form, the light magic inside Little Teal's body started pouring out completely on its own. Just then, footsteps echoed outside the door. Everyone immediately went on high alert and scrambled to hide. But it turned out to be just the waiter dropping off the cake. The group quickly tried to act naturally. Meanwhile, under the table, it was a totally hilarious mess. Little Teal was completely clueless and nervous as heck. She was just way too excited about being out, and her magic ended up leaking right out with her. Seeing another little golden fish about to pop out, she desperately tried to think of something scary just to distract herself. And this time, thinking about Grandpa finally served a real purpose. Crisis was finally averted. Then, she slowly poked out a tiny paw, asking if it was safe to come out. Once they gave her the green light, she quickly scurried right out. And began to happily enjoy this rare afternoon tea. At the exact same time, Madame Terra from the royal family received a very specific letter. With her years of experience in reading between the lines, she instantly recognized it as a royal commission. She quickly realized the crown prince wanted to custom order a dress for a girl that had caught his eye. The madame's heart fluttered with pure joy. Oh my, it seems his highness has finally fallen in love. So his sweetheart wouldn't have to wait. She decided to get to work right then and there, ready to pull an all-nighter. Suddenly, frantic knocking echoed at her door. Wait, no one should be coming at this hour. Bang! Without even waiting for an answer, the crown prince violently barged right in. He literally scared the cousin so badly she shifted into her wolf form. Ah, looks like I came to the exact right place. Earlier, the crown prince had gone to the Black Panther estate to look for them, but when he heard they went out, he tracked them all the way here. He even wore a special disguise just to avoid drawing attention. Well, if you ask me, doesn't this look even more suspicious? Seeing someone totally ruining her cute date with the little snow leopard. The cousin was instantly ticked off. Seeing her reaction, Rudian finally gathered his courage and chimed right in. That is so unfair. 3-1. You've already lost. Just go. Get out of here. Ian flat out refused to admit defeat. Seeing that her big brother Ian had come looking for her, Little Teal naturally took his side. Seeing him acting like this, Faraday and the others admitted defeat. Little Teal couldn't understand why they disliked Ian so much. If you ask me, they were just plain jealous. But the Crown Prince's next words snapped them right back to reality. You guys are starting school soon, right? I'll be taking care of Little Teal from now on. Does that mean I won't get to see my brother very often? Faraday quickly stepped in to comfort her. All you have to do is write him a letter, and he'll come right back. Only then did the little snow leopard finally relax. Then I need to work really hard on learning how to write. Hearing that Little Teal didn't even know how to write yet, everyone was a bit stunned. It turned out her grandpa had never even bothered to teach her. Rudian came up with a clever idea. If you can't write, just draw pictures instead. Studying is super boring anyway. The rest of them were completely speechless. The Crown Prince, however, broke the silence. The news about the Black Panther family breaking their curse had completely spread everywhere. Faraday's heart skipped a beat. This was supposed to be a top-secret family matter. But now, the NTLA Empire knew. And that meant the key with the light ability, Little Teal, was in terrible danger. Oh no, oh no. The little snow leopard was ready to run away from home again. Tears quietly slipped from her eyes as she hid under the covers. All because, not too long ago, her leaking powers had drawn the greedy eyes of numerous factions who wanted her. Rudian didn't think they'd actually dare to attack openly, but he couldn't shake off the lingering fear in his heart. Her cousin, on the other hand, was absolutely frantic. Who dares to touch my precious baby? They'll be making an enemy out of the NTLA Wolf clan. Surprisingly, Ian was the calmest one of them all. Although the major families all have their own hidden agendas, they wouldn't just team up overnight to gang up on a single child. As he spoke, his green eyes flashed fiercely. And as for those minor threats, I'll wipe them all out. I will protect you. But despite their reassurances, this sudden news put an immense amount of pressure on Little Teal. Late that night, two of the adults held an emergency meeting. When the head of the family found out, he was absolutely furious. He slammed the table in a fit of rage. Her dad had already given orders to heavily reinforce the security, and banned Little Teal from leaving the estate. Grandpa's heart ached for his precious granddaughter. It would have been better if she just awakened a defensive ability, so she could just live happily every day. And with the royal family possibly getting involved, they had to make their move first. But that might drag Faraday into the mess. After thinking it over, they decided to just take things one step at a time. Meanwhile, the little snow leopard was tossing and turning in her room, unable to sleep. She buried her little head deep into her pillow. It was all her fault for bringing so much trouble to her dad's. She was filled with regret. If I had known, I never would have come here. Just as she was about to get up and leave, her bedroom door suddenly creaked open. Beneath his dark hair, his face revealed overwhelming worry. It was her dad, coming to check on her. Oh, no. Little Teal frantically shifted back into her human form, desperately trying to hide her fresh tear stains. But the wet patches on the pillow completely gave the little crybaby away. Her father's heart ached with tenderness. He softly comforted her, telling her not to worry. We will do everything in our power to protect you. But Little Teal wasn't worried about herself at all. She was terrified that the Black Panther family would be put in danger because of her. Her heartbreaking maturity made her father ache for her even more. With a slightly choked up voice, he gently stroked his daughter's head. In the days after we lost your mommy, our whole family was drowning in sorrow. But then you came along, and you brought the warmth back to our home. So you never, ever need to apologize. They were endlessly grateful that this little snow leopard had come into their lives. Hearing this, little Tear's emotional walls completely crumbled, and she threw herself right into that warm, comforting embrace. An overwhelming sense of security she had never felt before washed over her. After a long while, she slowly drifted off to sleep in her daddy's arms. Honestly, rather than just guarding against outside enemies, they really needed to keep a sharp eye on their fellow felines, the snow leopard family. They had been watching the Black Panthers and the other 4 major families like hawks for a long time. With the Water Clan already completely wiped out, and the Wind Clan siding with the Black Panthers, the remaining 3 families should be more than enough to handle one measly little kid, right? Still, it was a bitter pill to swallow. He furiously resented that this little lump of coal only showed her true powers after moving to the Black Panthers. If I'd known, I would have locked that wretched furball up until she grew up. The grandfather gritted his teeth, his blood boiling the more he thought about it. The aunt stepped up to calm him down, but to her shock, he violently slapped her hand away. He furiously roared at her to get the hell out. Compared to Reina, she was absolutely useless as an heir. Boiling with rage, the aunt spun on her heel and stormed out. She's just a half-baked little brat anyway. Deep down, her hatred for that wretched little mutt only grew stronger. Just you wait. Oh man, we are doomed, we are so doomed. Their precious little snow leopard was actually about to run off with someone else. Her fiercely protective older brother was grinding his teeth in pure frustration. Just moments ago, the Crown Prince's birthday banquet had finally kicked off. Little Tear rallied every chef in the manor, carefully putting together an absolute feast. The little snow leopard was already buzzing with excitement, wondering when the guest of honor would finally show up. Surprisingly, Faraday wasn't jealous in the slightest this time. He definitely wasn't going to tell his sister that he ordered the chef to mess with that guy's food. Cousin Vllla, however, couldn't care less about the drama. She just started aggressively stuffing her face. Lucian teased her, asking if she could show at least a tiny bit of manners. Before he could even finish his sentence, she practically bit his head off. You sure talk a lot, don't you? After a bit of playful roughhousing, the Crown Prince pushed open the grand doors. Little Tear was the very first one to sprint up and greet him. She excitedly wished him a happy birthday. Ian looked down at her, his eyes warm with gratitude, hearing that the little snow leopard had been doing great lately, and had even started getting the hang of her light powers. He smiled warmly and gently patted her head. Faraday, on the other hand, was burning with blazing jealousy. The cousin seized the perfect chance to tease him. Oh, my, are you terrified your precious little sister is getting snatched away? You're so childish. Little Tear is closest to me. Saying that, he sharply pulled out a chair, signaling for his sister to sit right next to him. But the Crown Prince wasn't about to back down either. He pulled out his own chair, warmly inviting Little Tear to sit by his side. What is this? I obviously invited her first. Yeah, but I'm the birthday boy today. The moment those words dropped, it was an absolute, crushing victory. Defeated, Little Tear obediently took the seat next to Ian. Then, the Crown Prince pulled out a seemingly ordinary gift. Lucian was a bit skeptical. You're not seriously using this to replace Little Tear's dress, are you? Of course not. Little Tear eagerly tore open the gift box. A refreshing, icy breeze washed over her face, instantly cooling down the little snow leopard's 90-degree body heat. Faraday was absolutely stunned. Wait, this is the essence of the snowfields. A once-in-a-century ice flower. It literally lowers the body temperature of whoever holds it. This massive flex gave Ian a huge ego boost. He casually brushed it off, saying these little trinkets were just gifts from others anyway. There's plenty more in the royal treasury. It's obviously a perfect fit for Little Tear. A split second she touched it, her tiny body involuntarily poofed right into her snow leopard form. She had never felt so comfortably cool in her life, rolling around on the dining table in absolute ecstasy. Now that she was finally completely free from the sweltering heat, her siblings could only watch with incredibly awkward expressions. Meanwhile, Ian acted totally chill, but his nose was up in the air, stretched out 80 meters long. Like a bunch of nobodies could ever compare to him. After cooling off, the little snow leopard quickly turned back into her human form. She announced that she had a present for her big brother Ian, too. It was just a little tricky to bring out. Little Teal strutted away on her stubby little legs with the swagger of someone 2.8 meters tall. As she turned to go get it, the room instantly filled with jealousy and pure frustration. To think Little Teal's very first gift was going to that bratty crown prince. Soon enough, she came running back out, dragging along a present that was even taller than she was. She shyly asked Ian to wait until he got home to open it. Right then, Grandpa quietly sneaked in. He had caught a glimpse of his precious granddaughter carrying something strange earlier. Curiosity got the better of him, so he came to check it out. The moment the door swung open, he saw the three of them sitting there, looking completely defeated. If you ask me, did they actually end up eating that little extra surprise ingredient? Oh boy, here it comes. The very first dress the little snow leopard ever made immediately caught the eye of the Empire's top designer. If I don't stay up all night making you 99 outfits, then I've lived my life for nothing. She is just way too cute. Not long ago, at Little Teal's invitation, the Crown Prince finished celebrating his birthday, even though it was so simple you couldn't even call it a real party. He didn't feel lonely this time, and the best surprise of all was getting a present from Little Teal. It made her cousin and Rudian so jealous they sulked for the NTLA day. How much longer is this guy going to show off? Once back at the palace, he couldn't wait to see what was inside that 2-meter-long gift. But surprisingly, the moment he tore it open, there was just another gift box inside. He felt something was a bit off. Then came the second layer, all the way down to the 99th layer. Seriously, what kind of joke is this? He secretly prayed this was the final box. At last, a glowing holy relic appeared. Filled with confusion, he picked up the attached instruction manual. It read, "Take this to a place without light." Was this hinting at his subspace? The Crown Prince's heart suddenly skipped a beat. Ever since that place existed, it had constantly radiated a heavy, dark aura. No matter how blindingly bright a holy relic was, it could never light up that space. Even so, he held onto a tiny sliver of hope and followed the instructions, carrying Little Teal's gift as he stepped inside. After wandering around in the dark for a bit, he found a good spot and sat down cross-legged. He gently placed the gift on the ground, but sadly, it didn't seem to give off any light at all. Just as he was feeling utterly disappointed, the gift suddenly burst into a dazzling, brilliant light, instantly illuminating the NTLA space. He couldn't help but marvel. Little Teal's ability to control light had already become so incredibly powerful. It completely pushed back the darkness, refusing to be swallowed, and within that glow, he could clearly feel the unique, warm aura left behind by the little snow leopard. Meanwhile, Little Teal lay in bed, thinking about him with all her heart. "I wonder if Big Brother Ian will like my gift?" Her maid gently comforted her. "Of course he will, my lady. This is the result of your hard work for 3 whole days and nights." Even though the Crown Prince possesses every precious treasure in the world, his space is still filled with lonely darkness. Little Teal simply wanted to give that place even just a tiny sliver of light, but she never expected the effect to be so massive. Few days later, the royal designer personally visited the Black Panther family, just to make sure their youngest daughter got a custom-tailored, exclusive dress. Everyone was completely shocked. You have to understand, this designer normally only works for the royal family. Why would she lower herself to come here? The designer just gave a calm, casual reply. Grandpa couldn't help but wonder what kind of rare opportunity led to this partnership. But the moment she laid eyes on Little Teal, the senior designer was instantly captivated by the girl's golden eyes and striking dark silver hair. It sparked her endless creativity. She immediately asked Little Teal if she had a favorite color. Little Teal answered without hesitation, "Gold, because it represents the glory of our family. And it'd be even better if it perfectly matched the brooch the Crown Prince gave me." The designer nodded in perfect understanding. Just then, Grandpa decisively stepped in. He requested the designer to also create outfits for Little Teal's beast form. The moment she transformed into a little snow leopard, the designer's heart completely melted. With a wave of her hand, she immediately ordered her secretary to cancel all other appointments. She decided to personally experience this soft, cuddly cuteness, marveling that such a charming creature could exist in this world. She promised Little Teal that she would rush the order overnight and definitely wouldn't let her down. Oh, here we go. Just to get a picture with the little snow leopard, Black Panther patriarch actually demanded to be her paw pad. What a shameless move, left everyone utterly dumbfounded. I want to be one too. Let me be Little Teal's mount. For the past few days, under her cousin's tutoring, Little Teal's studies had improved remarkably. But today, a maid suddenly came in to report that the painters hired by the patriarch had arrived. Hearing this, Little Teal immediately got ready to go like a good girl. However, the maid mentioned they would be staying for 5 days, so the young miss could take her time. Cousin VLLA perked up at the 5-day stay. Then I'm definitely getting a portrait with Little Teal too. Rudian, who was napping nearby, instantly bolted upright. Hey, get in line, will you? Turns out, he and Faraday had fought tooth and nail just to secure a single painting slot. The next day, the painters were fully equipped, marching in a neat line toward Little Teal. Faced with this grand lineup, her father gently comforted her, telling her not to panic. He explained that the painters needed to capture her from multiple angles to get it just right. Once finished, they would pick the very best family portrait to hang right in the center of the main hall, so the whole world could witness Little Teal's greatness. Little Teal's heart was bursting with happiness, though she felt super encouraged. She didn't expect the painters to work non-stop for 4 whole days. To ensure the portraits turned out perfectly, she kept her little hands tightly clenched, pouting her lips and sitting perfectly still, absolutely terrified of messing things up. On the final day, Little Teal pumped herself up and got out of bed. Just then, the maid brought great news. The designer's beast form outfits had finally arrived. From a little bumblebee costume to a sunflower outfit for the snow leopard, they had absolutely everything. They weren't formal gowns, but this limited edition dress-up snow leopard was just way too cute. Thankfully, with the ice flower Ian gave her, she wasn't afraid of the heat in her beast form anymore. Meanwhile, the patriarch had been waiting for quite a while. Everyone was confused. Wasn't today just supposed to be? Is Grandpa going to the royal palace? Why is he dressed so formally? Unexpectedly, Grandpa gave a dashing look. Today, he was going to be little Tear's footrest. Of course I have to dress to impress. Everyone suddenly realized what was going on. No wonder Grandpa had sent her father away on a work trip today. Then, the beast-formed little snow leopard made her grand entrance, instantly melting the hearts of everyone present. Today, little Tear can just sit right on Grandpa. That way, you won't get tealed at all. Rudian was absolutely frustrated. He had wanted to show off the painting at school, but hearing that Grandpa would be in it completely killed his mood. But the clever cousin already had a brilliant plan. She had secretly paid triple the price to have one of the painters draw a solo portrait of little Tear. Sure, it was a bit sneaky, but it worked like a charm. Well then, you'll have to give me something in return. I knew this was a bad idea. I might as well just give you all my pocket money. Hand it over. Those words instantly enraged cousin Vll. Seeing Rudian barely clinging to life, Faraday had no choice but to cave in. But to their shock, the designer dropped off hundreds of outfits. The group quickly blew through every last penny they had saved. To make matters worse, Grandpa hogged the center stage the NTLA day. He even kept the solo portrait all to himself. Luckily, Faraday managed to stash one away. Cousin Vll even planned to sneak in and steal it that night, but the two of them quickly shut that idea down. If you do that, I'm telling Auntie. The very mention of her mother made cousin Vll suddenly realize that the rest of the family was coming over tomorrow. Ever since little Teal's mother passed away, this would be Auntie's very first time coming back home. Raina's child, I really can't wait to see you. Separated by 2 lifetimes, the baby snow leopard received a gift from her mama for the very first time, and she completely broke down in tears. The deep longing for her mama was the absolute last line of emotional defense she had hidden away in her heart. It turns out that shortly before this, when cousin Vll's family came to visit, while the parents were catching up, the younger sister was nowhere to be found. That's because Auntie had already been dragged off by cousin Vll to see little Teal. Clearly, little Teal stole the spotlight. But jokes aside, Uncle couldn't help but feel a little emotional. After all this time, seeing the Black Panther family so vibrant and full of life again. It felt exactly like when Reina was still here. Yeah, it's all thanks to that child. She's the one who brought warmth back to our home. Meanwhile, Auntie walked with heavy, hesitant steps. She seemed almost afraid. Little Teal was confused, mistakenly thinking that Auntie was just shy around strangers, exactly like she used to be. And she was practically an expert on that. So, gathering her courage, she trotted over and introduced herself as little Teal. Hearing her name, Auntie reached out, her hand trembling uncontrollably. She gently stroked little Teal's cheek. You look so much like her. You really look exactly like your mother. She couldn't stop herself from pulling little Teal into a tight hug, wanting to pour all her love into making up for the crushing guilt she felt toward this child. And also on behalf of her mother, Reina, she cried out her endless longing. I never thought I'd get to see Reina's child again. Thank God, and thank you so much. After she finally calmed down, little Teal was overjoyed that Auntie was here to play with her too. But when she heard Auntie mention that they'd be heading back in a few days, cousin Vll gasped in horror. Wait, does that mean I have to go back too? No way, I am not going. Absolutely not. As the heir, you have to go back. Soon, the two of them arrived at a door that hadn't been opened in a very long time. This was a place little Teal had never set foot in. As a special surprise for her, the room had been meticulously cleaned ahead of time. This was Reina's room. Even her father couldn't bear to just walk in here casually. Auntie immediately started looking around, and finally pulled out a tiny piece of clothing from deep inside a drawer. She handed it to little Teal, because Reina had knitted this entirely by hand. Back when she was still alive, she poured her heart and soul into this little outfit. Despite knowing absolutely nothing about knitting, she kept adjusting the size and fixing the collar, desperately hoping that the baby girl in her womb would grow up to be exactly as beautiful as she was. Stepping into the spotlight in those gorgeous clothes. Yeah, absolutely. Love really can change a person. That was the very first time Auntie had ever seen Reina looking so flustered. Even though she was at the absolute peak of power and status, she was willing to give it all up, just so she could be with Cassius. Auntie couldn't help but feel so happy for her. And for her brother, too. But fate was just so cruel. Reina tragically passed away. She never even got to lay eyes on the daughter she had dreamed of for so long, falling into an eternal sleep on that cold, snow-covered night. She loved you so much. Even if it meant giving up her own life. Little Teal stayed completely silent. She thought back to her time in the snow leopard territory, how she would always sneak into her grandpa's room, just to secretly look at her mother's portrait. But she would always keep her head down. only daring to trace the edges of that memory from the corner of her eye. Even though her dad told her over and over again that it wasn't her fault, she still hadn't forgiven herself. She agonized over whether she should even have been born at all. But hearing her aunt's words, the heavy knot in her heart finally unraveled. And the tears just kept pouring down. She was so incredibly thankful for her loving family. So her mom really had always loved her all along. Getting her very first photo with her mommy, the little snow leopard was so thrilled she couldn't sleep the entire night. Ever since her cousin's family moved into the Black Panther territory, those two boys had been completely targeted by their uncle. They were absolutely terrified, just remembering how he used to toss them high up into the air. It literally gave both of them a fear of heights. Meanwhile, hearing that next week, the Black Panther family was heading to the capital, Auntie immediately offered to cover all their supplies and expenses. But her dad politely turned her down. The villa is still being renovated, so there's no need to worry. Though, all the other noble families will be staying in the capital by then, too. That made little Teal look a bit lost. Her tiny paws nervously gripped the edges of her skirt. She already knew how tense things were between the clans, and the families standing against the Black Panthers would be there too. Now that she was part of the Black Panther family, she had to treat them as her enemies, too. Thankfully, her cousin's family was on their side. Her worried little face instantly lit up with determination. I'm going to make my dads proud and show them what I can really do. And her aunt caught that exact moment. Oh, she's just too cute. She reached over and gently patted little Teal's head. You know, your mom and dad actually met in the capital, too. Auntie got super excited just thinking about it, while her dad suddenly got a bad feeling about where this was going. Back when the capital was hosting a party, little 6-year-old Reina absolutely pinned your dad, who was 2 years older, to the ground and completely wiped the floor with him. Poor guy couldn't even fight back. He just sat there and got schooled by your genius mom. And that's exactly how their whole connection started. Even 3 years later, Reina was still just as fierce. When they crossed paths for the second time, your dad was still terrified of her. Especially when he heard she wanted to leave a bite mark on him. He panicked so hard, your mom literally chased him down 300 streets. With his embarrassing past completely exposed, her dad's face flushed bright red, then pale with pure awkwardness. So her mom really was that much of a total badass. Fast forward 3 days later. Her cousin, who was getting ready to leave, bawled her eyes out. You promise you won't forget me? I won't, I promise. Watching the carriage slowly fade into the distance, little Teal felt a pang of sadness. Meanwhile, those two brothers in the corner were literally clapping and cheering with joy. Seeing his daughter looking so heartbroken, her dad gently comforted her. It's all right, sweetheart. We'll be seeing them again in just a few days. Later, once they were back home, Dad told little Teal that he'd prepared a small gift for her, and left it right in her room. Hearing this, little Teal eagerly ran over to check it out, only to find a portrait of herself and her mommy. Her father had specially commissioned a painter for this piece, knowing his precious daughter would absolutely love it. But little did he know, little Teal's eyes were already welling up with tears. Thank you, Dad. Soon, night fell. Little Teal held the portrait of her mommy tightly against her chest, wishing she could snuggle up with her. She desperately hoped to fall asleep right away, so that in her dreams, she could enjoy delicious food with her mommy, along with her dad and brothers. Meanwhile, in the depths of a pitch-black void, a figure with dark blonde hair slowly began to move, their eyes completely hollow and lifeless. They were muttering some kind of spell under their breath. The very next moment, a glowing red subspace materialized out of thin air. It seemed as though they were setting off to accomplish something, or perhaps, to destroy something, as they silently walked into it. Just what kind of disaster will this bring upon little Teal? Oh, here we go. The little snow leopard was finally hit with embarrassment this time, hiding herself in a plate, way too shy to face anyone. It was absolutely adorable. Meanwhile, her sister-obsessed brothers, who were secretly watching from the sidelines, were practically dying of jealousy. Why is this guy here again? The long-awaited festival had finally arrived, and the Black Panther family's villa in the capital was fully completed. It was so incredibly spectacular that little Teal's jaw just dropped. The capital was quite a long distance away, but thanks to her cousin's family and their wind abilities, they managed to arrive in just a single day. When she heard that her dad had specially prepared a room just for her, little Teal even made sure to bring along her own little luggage. Inside, there wasn't just her mommy's photo, but also her cousin's homework that she had sneakily stashed away, along with candies given by the maids, and of course, some tasty snacks for her inner little glutton. As soon as she stepped into the room, she was greeted by a lovely, cute pink decor that still felt incredibly elegant. It was just far too beautiful. It even had all her favorite plushies and toys, making little Teal love it even more. But suddenly, because she was just so overjoyed, her light ability slipped out of control, instantly illuminating the NTLA room with a bright glow. This startled her so much that she froze in a panic. She really didn't want to think about her mean grandpa ever again. Ever since she returned from the temple, she had noticed that her abilities seemed to have undergone some kind of change. They kept swirling around her body, radiating a dazzling golden light and feeling incredibly active. Just then, the butler suddenly came in to report that the crown prince had come to visit the villa. Hearing this, the two brothers' faces instantly darkened. This guy just doesn't know when to quit. We barely just moved in. Why is he already following us here? But the moment she heard that her big brother Ian had come looking for her, she was absolutely over the moon. Even the swirling light abilities around her suddenly vanished. Meanwhile, the crown prince was sitting in the room, deeply frustrated. The emperor constantly nagging him about marriage was giving him a massive headache. He absolutely refused to just marry some random person just to break his curse. If it meant sacrificing someone else's happiness, the sensitive topic prompted his aide to tactfully excuse himself. But what troubled him even more was that his subspace had recently been filled with this strange, dark aura. Just as he was wondering what on earth was going on, a familiar voice suddenly rang out from outside the door. Little Teal had arrived. Ian's gloomy expression instantly lit up. Little Teal happily ran over to him. However, the moment she heard Ian mention the gift she had given him, her little eyes went wide in pure shock. Before he could even finish his sentence, her tiny body tumbled back in an absolute panic of embarrassment. The very next second, she poofed into a little snow leopard, desperately wanting to hide herself away. She hugged her little head tightly, stuttering so hard she could barely form a sentence. I was afraid you wouldn't like it. But to her surprise, Ian gently scooped up her soft little body. He held her tenderly in his arms. Silly, of course I don't dislike it. Honestly, thanks to you, my inner realm has become so much brighter. I really love this gift. Hearing those sweet words, the little snow leopard was absolutely thrilled. It was truly magical. The very second Little Teal left his arms, the eerie, dark aura surrounding him vanished into thin air. Could it be because of Little Teal's special powers? Meanwhile, her two fiercely overprotective brothers, hiding behind the door, were already fuming. I knew that guy was up to no good. Why the heck is he hugging her? Faraday was so ticked off he instantly told him to get lost. By the time the second day rolled around, Auntie arrived too, and she thoughtfully brought along all the lovely things Little Teal would need for the grand festival. It was so incredibly sweet of her. After a warm chat, they promised to meet up at the banquet. Just then, her father walked over to her side. He gazed deeply at his gorgeous Little Teal, all dressed up in her stunning gown. The moment had finally arrived. He felt no fear, no hesitation. He was filled with nothing but fierce pride and absolute confidence. His daughter's presence was breathtakingly radiant. Her father's eyes grew resolute. Let's go. It's time to show the whole world that you are the one and only daughter of the Black Panther family. The legendary saintess, destined to break all curses, had been cruelly abandoned shortly after birth. Simply because her beautiful, deep golden eyes were despised by her clan. In the snow leopard territory, she was treated worse than dirt. But now, her grand entrance made her the absolute brightest star in the NTLA Empire. The little snow leopard's very first public appearance completely blew everyone away. Just a short while ago, the grand festival banquet had finally begun. The line of nobles entering the city stretched out endlessly like a massive dragon. But among them all, the 5 great noble houses held absolute power. Amidst the roaring cheers of the crowd, the Black Panther clan made their grand entrance first. Grandpa's aura was overwhelmingly fierce and majestic, because tonight, they swore to fiercely protect the one and only precious jewel of the Black Panther family. The moment Little Teal stepped out in her stunning black and white gown, the NTLA venue erupted in excitement. It scared her so much she broke into a cold sweat. Rudian kept leaning in, gently cheering her on. If anyone dares to say a bad word about you, I'll burn them to a crisp. Wait, no, you're just making things worse, you know. Listening to her two brothers bickering so playfully, a sweet, warm feeling bubbled up in her chest. She turned her head around, and saw her cousin waving excitedly at her. She immediately smiled and waved right back. But right at that moment, a few dreadfully familiar figures came into view. Teal's heart started pounding in her chest. It was her cruel aunt, Rovi, and her maternal grandfather, the head of the Snow Leopard clan. All those painful, agonizing memories came rushing back like a dark tidal wave, frantically tearing away at her fragile heart. Thank goodness, Faraday stepped in right on time. Don't be scared, your big brother is right here. No one will ever hurt you again. Those gentle, protective words brought Little Teal's courage rushing back. The hostile glares instantly shrank back in fear. Suddenly, the grand horns began to blare, announcing the arrival of the Emperor and the Crown Prince. The festival's atmosphere instantly skyrocketed to its absolute peak. With a casual wave of the Emperor's hand, a magical megaphone orb appeared in the air, officially declaring the grand banquet open. Tonight, we celebrate in honor of the gods, he announced, and with that, he summoned the emissary of light. Princess Teal, please, step up to the stage. Such a sudden, unexpected introduction and summons made her grandpa incredibly anxious. But her father? He remained fiercely, almost unusually calm. He gently patted the patriarch's shoulder. For now, they just had to keep their cool. Right after that, little Teal, accompanied by her father, bravely stepped up to the front of the stage. The emperor got straight to the point. You now wield the power of light. It is only fitting that you open this sacred ceremony. Let the eyes of the NTLA Empire be upon you. Show us your gifts. Begin with your holy light, and let this celebration bloom for the gods. His hidden agenda made the snow leopard family incredibly uncomfortable, but their hands were tied. Right at that moment, the ceremony began. A blinding light flooded the NTLA venue, and the crowd burst into wild cheers. Soon after, the 5 great families joined in, bringing the 5 elemental powers together. Merging with Little Teal's power of light, a brilliant golden koi gracefully swam through the elemental magic. The crowd watched in absolute awe as it finally exploded into a breathtaking display of fireworks, lighting up the NTLA imperial night sky. Seizing the moment, the emperor announced, "With the return of the messenger of light, our land shall never be shrouded in darkness again." As the festival officially kicked off, the spectacular scene instantly set everyone's hearts on fire. However, Ian stood off to the side, feeling a deep sense of unease. The emperor was deliberately shifting all the public pressure onto Little Teal, and he couldn't help but worry about what would happen next.